I never thought I would end up standing at an altar beside the one person I hated most. Damian Sterling, the billionaire heir, the ruthless businessman, the arrogant man who spent my entire high school life making me feel like I was his biggest competition. Everyone thought we were perfect together. They were wrong, because nobody knew the truth. Damian Sterling was my enemy. At least, that was what I believed. The first time I met Damian was when we were 16. I was the scholarship student who worked twice as hard as everyone else. He was the rich boy who already owned half the city before he even graduated. We were complete opposites. I hated how confident he was. I hated how everyone admired him. And most of all, I hated how he always looked at me like he knew something I didn't. "You're going to lose this competition, Bennett," he told me before our final school debate. I crossed my arms. "Dream on, Sterling. I don't lose." He smiled, that annoying smile that somehow made my heart race and my blood boil. "Good. I'd hate for you to become boring." I won that competition, but Damian didn't look angry. He looked proud. At the time, I didn't understand why. Years later, I would discover the truth. He had been cheering for me the entire time. I just didn't know it. After high school, I never saw Damian again, until the day my father called me into his office with a serious expression. "Our company is collapsing," he said. My heart dropped. What? A family business that had taken decades to build was about to disappear. Then my father revealed the solution: a merger, a partnership, a marriage. My marriage. To who? I asked. He looked away, and I already knew. No? Please understand, Ava. This will save everything. I laughed bitterly. You want me to marry Damian Sterling? The same man who had spent years irritating me? The same man who, I thought, hated me. No. I refused, until Damian walked into the room. Older, more powerful, more intimidating, but his eyes were exactly the same. They still looked at me like I was the only person in the room. "I agree to the marriage," Damian said. I stared at him. "You're joking." "I'm not." "Why?" His expression turned cold. "Because it benefits both families." I believed him. I believed he was just like everyone else. Someone who saw marriage as a business deal. I had no idea he was lying. The wedding day felt like a business transaction. No romance, no happiness, just cameras, investors, and wealthy families pretending everything was perfect. When the ceremony ended, Damian leaned toward me. "You don't have to pretend with me." I looked at him. "Trust me, Damian. Pretending to love you would be impossible." Something flashed across his face. Pain, but it disappeared instantly. "Good," he said quietly, "because I don't expect you to." Those words hurt more than I wanted to admit. Our marriage was a battlefield. Damian was cold. I was stubborn. We argued about everything. Where we lived, how we handled the company, even what food we ordered. But then, strange things started happening. When I worked late, coffee would appear on my desk. Exactly how I liked it. When I got sick, Damian would cancel meetings to take care of me. When someone insulted me at a business event, Damian destroyed their entire partnership the next day. But whenever I asked him why he cared, he would pull away. "I'm just protecting my investment." Those words always hurt, until the day someone from his past arrived. Victoria, Damian's childhood friend, the woman everyone expected him to marry. She smiled at me, but there was something behind her eyes. Something dangerous. "I always wondered who would be brave enough to marry Damian," she said. I forced a smile. "Well, here I am." She leaned closer. "Just remember something, Ava. Some marriages are contracts. They aren't love stories." That night, Damian came home late, and Victoria's perfume was on his jacket. For the first time, I wondered if I had made the biggest mistake of my life, because maybe Damian Sterling really was my enemy. I spent the entire night staring at the ceiling. Damian's side of the bed was empty. Not that I cared. At least, that was what I kept telling myself. I hated him. I hated his arrogance. I hated the way he could walk into a room and make everyone listen. I hated the way he made me feel like I was always one step behind him. But what I hated the most was the fact that I was starting to notice him. The small things. The way he always made sure my driver arrived safely. The way he remembered my coffee order from years ago. The way he looked at me when he thought I wasn't watching. It was confusing, because the man I thought was my enemy didn't act like someone who hated me. But then again, maybe I was just foolish. Maybe I was looking for kindness in someone who didn't truly care. The next morning, Damian walked into the kitchen like nothing happened. Perfect suit, perfect hair, perfect expression, like he hadn't come home smelling like another woman. "Good morning," he said. I looked up from my coffee. "Is it?" His eyebrows narrowed. "What does that mean?" I laughed quietly. "Nothing." Damian studied me. He always did that, like he could see through every lie I told. "You're angry." "I'm not." "You are." I said I'm not. A small smile appeared on his face. "You still do that." I frowned. "Do what?" "Lie when you're upset." My heart skipped because he remembered. Something so small from high school. Something nobody else knew. I quickly looked away. "I don't know what you're talking about." Before he could answer, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen, and his entire expression changed. Victoria. The way he said her name made something inside me tighten. He walked away to answer. I hated that it bothered me. I hated that I cared. Because this wasn't supposed to be real. This was just an arranged marriage, a contract. Nothing more. That afternoon, I attended my first business meeting as Damian's wife. Everyone treated me differently. Some people respected me. Others looked at me like I didn't belong. Especially Victoria. She sat beside Damian like she had done it 1,000 times before. She laughed at his jokes. She touched his arm casually. She acted like she already owned him, and Damian allowed it. That was the part that hurt. During the meeting, Victoria leaned toward me. "You must feel overwhelmed." I looked at her. "I'm fine." She smiled. "I know Damian better than anyone. He doesn't like people getting close to him. Good thing I'm not trying to get close." Her smile grew. "Are you sure?" I didn't answer, because the truth was, I didn't know anymore. A few days later, something happened that completely changed everything. My ex-boyfriend Ethan returned. I hadn't seen him in 3 years. The last memory I had of him was him walking away when I needed him the most. But now he stood in front of me with flowers and an apology. "Ava, I made a mistake." I stared at him. "You disappeared." I was scared. "You left me." He looked down. "I know." Before I could respond, a familiar voice interrupted. "Interesting." I turned around. Damian. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes looked furious. "Damian." He looked at Ethan. "I didn't realize my wife had visitors." Ethan smiled. "Ex-boyfriend." The room went silent. I saw something flash in Damian's eyes. Jealousy. Real jealousy. But then he covered it with coldness. "I see." He walked away, and for some reason, that hurt. That night, Damian barely spoke to me. "You could have told me he was coming." I looked at him. Why would I? His jaw tightened. "Because I'm your husband." I laughed. "Are you?" He looked at me. "What does that mean?" "You act like I'm a business partner, Damian. Not your wife." Silence. For a moment, I thought he would finally tell me the truth, but instead, he said, "Maybe you're right." Those words broke something inside me. I walked away before he could see how much they hurt. But what I didn't know was that Damian wasn't angry because he didn't trust me. He was angry because Ethan was the one person he had always feared. Because Ethan knew a secret. A secret about high school. A secret Damian had spent years hiding. The next morning, I received an anonymous envelope. No name, no address, just one sentence written on the front. "You think you know your husband? You have no idea who Damian Sterling really is." Inside was a photograph. A photograph from high school. A photograph of me, standing beside Damian. Except I didn't remember that day. On the back of the photo were 5 words. Ask him why he lied. My heart started racing, because suddenly, I wasn't sure if Damian Sterling was my enemy or if he was the only person who had ever protected me. I stared at the photograph for what felt like hours. My hands were shaking. It was a picture from high school. A day I remembered clearly. The day I thought Damian Sterling humiliated me in front of everyone. But there was something wrong. Something I couldn't explain. In the photo, Damian wasn't laughing at me. He wasn't mocking me. He was looking at me like I was the most important person in the world. And standing beside him was me, smiling, a genuine smile, the kind I hadn't given Damian in years. I turned the photograph over again. Ask him why he lied. Those words haunted me, because Damian had lied to me before. The question was, what was he hiding? When Damian came home that night, I was waiting. He immediately noticed something was wrong. He always noticed. What happened? I placed the photograph on the table. His entire body froze. For the first time since I married him. Damian Sterling looked afraid. Not angry, not annoyed. Afraid. Where did you get this? I crossed my arms. That's not the question I asked. His eyes moved back to the picture. Ava? No. My voice cracked. You don't get to avoid this. I picked up the photograph. You made me believe you hated me in high school. Silence. You made me believe you were embarrassed by me. More silence. You made me believe every cruel thing you said. His expression changed. Pain appeared in his eyes. I never hated you. I laughed. A bitter laugh. Really? Yes. Then why did you make my life miserable? Damian looked away, and that was when I knew. There was a reason. A real reason. I was trying to protect you. I stared at him. Protect me from what? But he didn't answer, and that made me even more angry. You always do this. Do what? Act like you're carrying the entire world on your shoulders, but refuse to let anyone understand you. His eyes softened. You wouldn't understand. Try me. For a moment, I thought he would finally tell me everything. But then his phone rang. He looked at the screen. And the moment he saw the name, his expression changed. Again. Victoria. Of course. I stepped back. Go ahead. Ava, answer it. He didn't. He looked between me and the phone. Then he turned it off. And for some reason, that surprised me. The next day, I decided to find answers myself. I went to Sterling Enterprises. I wanted to know who Damian Sterling really was. Not the billionaire everyone saw. Not the cold husband everyone feared. The real man. I searched through old company records, old articles, old interviews, and then I found something strange. A newspaper article from 15 years ago. The headline read, Young Sterling heir donates scholarship money to unknown student. I clicked on the article. My heart stopped. The student wasn't named, but the date was familiar. The same month I almost dropped out of school because I couldn't afford my tuition. I remembered that day. Someone had anonymously paid my fees. I never knew who. I always thought it was a mistake. But now, I wasn't so sure. That evening, I confronted Damian again. You paid my school fees. He stopped walking. Slowly, he turned around. What? You heard me? His expression changed. Ava, was it you? He stayed silent. That was my answer. I felt my chest tighten. Why? His voice was quiet. Because you deserve to stay. I stared at him. You barely knew me. A sad smile appeared on his face. That's where you're wrong. I froze. What does that mean? He looked at me for a long moment. Then he said something I never expected. I knew you better than anyone. Before I could ask more, my phone rang. It was my best friend, Lily. Her voice was panicked. Ava, you need to see this. What happened? There's a rumor online. I opened the link she sent. My heart dropped. A picture of Damian and Victoria was everywhere. The headline read, Millionaire husband's secret lover revealed. The photo showed Damian and Victoria standing together, looking close, too close. My stomach turned. I looked at Damian. Tell me this isn't true. His face became serious. Ava, listen to me. Are you in love with her? No? Then why does everyone think you are? He stepped closer. Because someone wants you to believe that. Who? He didn't answer, and that scared me, because Damian Sterling was a man who always had a plan. But this time, someone had managed to hurt him. Someone who knew exactly where to attack. Our marriage. That night, I packed a bag. I couldn't keep living in a marriage full of secrets. As I walked toward the door, Damian stopped me. Ava. I turned around. For the first time, his voice wasn't cold. It was desperate. Don't leave. My heart broke a little, because I'd never heard Damian Sterling sound afraid before. I don't know who to believe anymore. He looked at me. Believe this. He stepped closer. I have loved you longer than you realize. My breath caught, but before I could ask what he meant, someone entered the room. Victoria. And she was holding something in her hand. A folder. She looked at Damian, then at me. I think it's time Ava knows the truth about why you really married her. My blood ran cold, because whatever was inside that folder was going to change everything. The room felt smaller, colder. I looked between Damian and Victoria, trying to understand what was happening. Victoria stood there with a satisfied smile, holding the folder against her chest like she had been waiting years for this moment. What truth? I asked. Damian immediately stepped forward. Victoria, leave. She laughed softly. That's exactly what you always do, Damian. You hide everything. My eyes moved to him. Hide what? Damian's jaw tightened. Ava, don't listen to her. That sentence made my heart sink, because I had heard it too many times. Don't ask, don't question, don't look deeper. Everyone kept telling me there were things I wasn't supposed to know. And I was tired of being the last person to find out the truth about my own life. No, I said. Both of them looked at me. I want to know. Damian's expression changed. Ava, no more secrets. The silence that followed felt heavier than anything. Victoria smiled. I knew you would say that. She opened the folder. Inside were documents, marriage agreements, business contracts, financial records. I picked up the first page. My heart stopped because it had Damian's signature. But the date. The date was 3 years before our families announced our marriage. What is this? Victoria looked at Damian. Tell her. I looked at him. Damian? He didn't answer, and that silence hurt more than anything. Victoria stepped closer. He planned this marriage years ago. I felt my stomach drop. What? She smiled. He knew your family would eventually struggle. He knew a merger would be needed. He knew you would have no choice but to marry him. I looked at Damian. Is that true? His face was unreadable, but his eyes were full of something. Regret. Yes. My heart shattered. You knew. I knew there was a possibility. And you never told me? I was going to. When? He looked away. That was enough. I laughed. A painful laugh. So everyone was right. Ava, you didn't marry me because you loved me. I swallowed the lump in my throat. You married me because I was part of a plan. Damian's face changed. No. Then explain it. He couldn't, and for the first time, I saw Damian Sterling lose control. I left that night. I didn't cry. I refused to. I had spent years believing Damian was my enemy. Then I started believing maybe he was different. Maybe he cared. Maybe there was something real between us. But now I didn't know what was real anymore. Was every kind gesture part of his plan? Every time he protected me? Every time he looked at me like I mattered? Was it all fake? I stayed at my old apartment, the one place where I could think. For 3 days, Damian didn't call. He didn't chase me. And somehow, that hurt even more. I expected him to fight. But maybe Victoria was right. Maybe I never mattered. Then, on the 4th day, I received a package. no sender. Inside was an old key and a note. If you want the truth about Damian Sterling, open the place where his heart has been hiding for 10 years. I stared at the key. I knew exactly where it belonged, the old Sterling family mansion. I went there that night. The house was empty. The staff had left for the evening. I searched everywhere. Then I remembered something. When I was 17, Damian had shown me a hidden room in the mansion. He told me it was his escape place, the only place where he could be himself. I found the door. The key fit perfectly. My hand shook as I opened it. Inside was a small room. Nothing like the rest of the mansion. No expensive furniture, no luxury. Just memories, photographs, letters, old books, and then I saw it. A black leather diary sitting on the desk. My name was written on the cover. Ava. My heart stopped. I slowly opened it. The first page had one sentence. If she ever finds this, it means I finally failed to protect her. I turned the page, and the first words I read destroyed everything I thought I knew. I have loved Ava Bennett since the day she walked into my classroom and challenged me in front of everyone. I stopped breathing. I turned another page. She thinks I hate her because I tease her. She doesn't know that annoying her is the only way I can get her attention. My hands covered my mouth. Another page. Today, she cried after the competition because someone told her she didn't belong here. I wanted to tell her she was the most incredible person I knew. Instead, I pretended to laugh. My eyes filled with tears because suddenly, every cruel moment had a different meaning. Every argument, every insult, every competition. It wasn't hatred, it was Damian's terrible way of staying close. Then I reached the final pages, the ones that changed everything. I pushed for the arranged marriage because I couldn't lose her again. I froze. Everyone thinks I wanted her family's company. The truth is, I would give up every company, every dollar, every title, if it meant she would be safe. My hands trembled. The final entry was dated just days before our wedding. Tomorrow, I marry the woman I have loved for years. She will probably hate me. She will probably think this is a mistake, but I would rather spend my life being hated by her than live another day without her. I closed the diary. Tears fell onto the pages. Because the man I thought was my enemy had been loving me silently the entire time. But before I could process everything, I heard footsteps. I turned around. Victoria stood at the doorway. Her smile was gone. You weren't supposed to find that. I stood up slowly. What did you do? Her expression hardened. You have no idea how much I sacrificed for Damian. I held the diary tightly. No. I looked at her. You have no idea how much he sacrificed for me. For the first time, Victoria looked afraid because she realized something. I knew the truth now, and I wasn't the same woman who entered this marriage. For years, I thought Damian Sterling was my enemy. I thought he was the person who enjoyed making my life difficult. I thought every argument, every sarcastic comment, and every cold look was proof that he couldn't stand me. But holding his diary in my hands, reading his words, learning that the man I hated had secretly been the person who believed in me the most, changed everything. Damian wasn't my enemy. The people around us were. And now that I knew the truth, I wasn't going to let anyone destroy the man who had spent years protecting me. Not even if that meant becoming someone they feared. Victoria stared at me from the doorway. For the first time since I met her, she wasn't confident. She wasn't smiling. She looked nervous. You read it, she whispered. I held Damian's diary against my chest. Yes. Her face turned pale. You don't understand what you're doing. I laughed quietly. No, Victoria, I understand everything now. I stepped closer. You spent months trying to convince me that my husband didn't love me. She looked away. Because he doesn't. I smiled. Funny. I lifted the diary. Because Damian's own words say otherwise. Her expression changed. Anger replaced fear. You think a diary changes everything? No. I looked directly into her eyes. The truth changes everything. Victoria finally dropped the act. You want to know why Damian married you? I stayed silent. Because he was obsessed with you. Her words surprised me, but then she continued. He spent years watching from a distance. He knew where you were, what you were doing, who you were talking to. I frowned. That's not obsession? She laughed. That's exactly what someone obsessed would say. I shook my head. No, that's someone who cared. Victoria's face hardened. You're so naive. No, I replied. I was naive when I believed you. That was when her expression changed, because she knew. I was no longer the woman she thought she could manipulate. The next morning, I went back to Sterling Enterprises. Everyone expected me to be the broken wife who ran away. They expected Damian and I to fall apart. They expected Victoria to win. They were wrong. I walked into the boardroom wearing the confidence I had spent years building. Everyone went silent. Especially Victoria. Damian was there. The moment he saw me, his expression changed. Surprise, hope, fear. Ava? I placed the diary on the table. I know. The room became silent. Damian stared at the diary. You found it. I nodded, and I know everything. For a moment, Damian looked like he was preparing for me to hate him. Instead, I said, Why didn't you tell me? His eyes lowered. Because I was afraid. That answer shocked me. Damian Sterling wasn't afraid of anyone. Not competitors, not enemies, not billion-dollar lawsuits. But he was afraid of me. Afraid of what? He looked at me. That if you knew the truth, you would realize you never chose me. My heart broke, because suddenly, I understood. Damian didn't hide his feelings because he didn't care. He hid them because he cared too much. Before I could respond, the doors opened. A man walked in. Ethan, my ex-boyfriend, but this time, he wasn't smiling. He looked nervous. Damian immediately stood. You shouldn't be here. Ethan looked at me. I need to tell her the truth. I stared at him. What truth? He swallowed. The rumors about Damian and Victoria? He looked guilty. They weren't real. My heart stopped. What? Ethan looked at Damian. She paid me. The room went silent. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Why? Ethan looked ashamed. Because she wanted you to leave Damian. Victoria's face changed instantly. You idiot! Everyone turned toward her. Ethan continued. She promised me money if I helped ruin your marriage. I looked at Victoria, the woman who smiled at me, the woman who pretended to care, the woman who tried to steal my husband. You used everyone. Victoria laughed. You think you've won? She looked at Damian. You still don't know the truth. Damian's expression darkened. What truth? Victoria smiled. I wasn't the only person working against you. That sentence changed everything, because Victoria wasn't the mastermind. She was only a piece of the puzzle. Then the doors opened again. This time, it was Damian's father. Everyone froze. He rarely appeared at company meetings. I think it's time you both know. Damian looked at him. What did you do? His father sighed. Years ago, I was the reason Damian couldn't tell you the truth. My heart dropped. What? He looked at me. I threatened to destroy Ava's family if Damian ever revealed his feelings. Damian's face turned cold. You promised you would never tell her. His father looked away. I was trying to protect the company. No. Damian's voice was filled with anger. You were trying to control my life. Everything finally made sense. The misunderstandings, the distance, the secrets. Damian had spent years fighting battles nobody knew about, and he had fought them alone. I walked toward him. For the first time, I wasn't angry. I was proud. You should have told me. I know. You should have trusted me. I know. I looked into his eyes. But I understand now. His expression softened. Ava. I reached for his hand. I'm not leaving. For the first time since I knew him, Damian looked completely vulnerable. You mean that? I smiled. Yes. Then I turned toward Victoria. But we're not finished. Her smile disappeared because she realized something. I wasn't going to run away. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to let her win. She tried to destroy my marriage. Now, I was going to destroy every lie she built. The next week, Damian and I worked together, not as business partners, not as two people trapped in an arranged marriage, but as husband and wife. We uncovered every secret, every fake document, every manipulated story, every person who helped Victoria, and one by one, we exposed them. Victoria lost her position in the company. The people who betrayed Damian lost their power. The investors who doubted us returned. But the biggest revenge wasn't destroying them. It was watching them realize one thing. They failed. Because the marriage they tried to break was stronger than ever. But just when Damian and I thought it was over, a hidden file appeared on my computer. One message, one name, a person we never suspected. You found Damian's diary. Now find out who wrote the first chapter of your nightmare. I looked at Damian. His face went pale because whoever sent that message was someone from our past, someone who had been watching us since high school. I thought we had finally won. After everything we had been through, the lies, the rumors, the betrayal, the people who tried to destroy our marriage. I believed the nightmare was over, but I should have known better, because someone had been watching us from the shadows since the beginning, and they knew exactly how to hurt us. I stared at the message on my computer screen. You found Damian's diary. Now find out who wrote the first chapter of your nightmare. My hands went cold. Damian stood beside me, staring at the screen. For the first time in weeks, I saw fear in his eyes again. Who is it? I whispered. He didn't answer. Damian. His jaw tightened. There is someone I never told you about. My heart sank. Another secret, another hidden piece of our past. I turned toward him. I thought we promised no more secrets. He looked at me. You're right. He took a deep breath. So I'm going to tell you everything. Damian sat beside me. And for the first time, I saw the man behind the billionaire image. Not the powerful CEO, not the man everyone feared. Just Damian, the boy I knew from high school. The person behind this, he paused, was my older brother. I froze. Your brother. Damian nodded. Adrian. I had heard the name before, but only once, years ago. A name people avoided mentioning. What happened to him? Damian looked away. He was supposed to inherit Sterling Enterprises. I listened carefully, but my grandfather chose me instead. I understood. A family rivalry, but Damian's expression told me there was more. Adrian blamed me for everything. His voice became quieter. He thought I stole his future. My heart tightened, and he blamed me for you too. I frowned. Me? Damian nodded. He knew I loved you. I stopped breathing. He knew. Yes. A painful smile appeared on his face. When we were in high school, Adrian saw my diary. My eyes widened. The diary? Damian nodded. The same diary you found. I looked down. He knew how I felt about you before anyone else. Suddenly, memories started connecting. The cruel comments, the rumors, the moments when people tried to embarrass me. I always thought Damian was responsible, but maybe it wasn't him. Adrian was the one who spread those rumors about me in school? Damian looked ashamed. Yes. My heart broke. All these years, I blamed you. I know. Why didn't you tell me? His eyes met mine. Because I knew you hated him. That doesn't explain why you let me hate you. His voice became soft. Because every time I tried to explain, something happened. I remembered. Every time Damian tried to speak honestly, something interrupted us. Someone created another problem. Someone made sure we never got close enough to discover the truth. The next day, Damian and I made a decision. We weren't running anymore. We were going to expose Adrian. But Adrian was smarter than we expected. He wasn't just attacking us emotionally, he was attacking the company. A week later, Sterling Enterprises lost a major contract. The news exploded. Sterling Airface's company collapse. Everyone blamed Damian. Everyone except me. Because I knew the truth. Someone wanted him destroyed, and I knew exactly who. We found Adrian at an old family property, the same mansion where Damian had hidden his diary. He didn't look surprised to see us. He actually smiled. "I knew you would come?" I stepped forward. "You ruined my life." Adrian laughed. "Your life?" He looked at Damian. "You took everything from me." Damian's expression stayed calm. "I never wanted your position." "Of course you didn't." Adrian smiled bitterly. "You had everything without trying." Then he looked at me. "And she was the one thing I could never take from you." My stomach turned. "You were trying to destroy our marriage because of jealousy?" "No." His smile disappeared. "Because I wanted Damian to finally lose something." Silence. Damian stepped forward. "You lost yourself a long time ago." Adrian's face changed, and for the first time, he looked defeated. But then Adrian made one final mistake. He admitted everything. The fake rumors, the manipulated documents, the people he paid, the messages he sent, everything. And he didn't realize one thing. The entire conversation had been recorded because Damian knew Adrian would never confess unless he believed he had won. The revenge was satisfying. Adrian lost control of the company he tried to steal. The people who helped him faced consequences. Victoria publicly apologized after her lies were exposed. Ethan admitted his mistakes and left our lives for good. Everyone who tried to break us watched as Damian and I became stronger. But the greatest revenge wasn't seeing them fall. It was seeing Damian finally happy. Months later, I stood on the balcony of our home, the same place where I once packed my bags and planned to leave him. Damian walked behind me. "Thinking about running away again?" I smiled. "No." He wrapped his arms around me. "Good." I looked at him. "You know what's funny?" "What?" "I spent years believing you were my enemy." He smiled. "And I spent years pretending I wasn't in love with you." I laughed. "You were terrible at hiding it." He raised an eyebrow. "Really?" "Yes." "Then why did you hate me?" I looked at him. "Because you made it very easy." He smiled. "And now?" I leaned closer. "Now I know the truth." That night, Damian gave me something. A new diary. I opened it. The first page said, "Ava, this time I want us to write our story together." And that was when I realized something. Our marriage didn't begin with love. It began with anger, with misunderstandings. With two people too stubborn to admit what they felt. But somehow, the person I thought was my enemy became the only person who ever truly fought for me. 1 year later, I stood beneath a beautiful garden arch covered in white roses, listening to the soft sound of the wind as it moved through the trees. But this time, everything was different. This time, I wasn't standing beside Damian Sterling because our families made a deal. I wasn't standing beside him because our companies needed an alliance. I wasn't standing beside him because a contract had our names written on it. I was standing beside him because after everything we had been through, we had finally chosen each other. When I looked across the garden and saw Damian walking toward me, I didn't see the cold billionaire everyone feared. I didn't see the arrogant boy who used to challenge me in high school. I didn't see the man I once believed was my greatest enemy. I saw my husband. The man who loved me quietly for years. The man who protected me even when I didn't know I needed protecting. The man who carried the weight of our love alone because he was too afraid that telling me the truth would make me walk away. A year ago, I would have laughed if someone told me I would fall in love with Damian Sterling. I would have told them they were crazy because I spent so many years believing he hated me. I thought every argument was proof that we were meant to destroy each other. I thought every sarcastic comment was another reason to keep my distance. I thought our marriage would only ever be a battle between two people who refused to admit defeat. But I was wrong. The truth was, we weren't enemies. We were two people who had spent years misunderstanding each other. Two people who were too stubborn to admit that the person who annoyed us the most was also the person who understood us the best. Damian took my hand during our vows, and I felt the same nervousness I felt on our wedding day. But this time, there was no fear, no uncertainty, no doubts, only love. He looked into my eyes and smiled, a real smile, the same smile he had hidden from me for years. "I spent half my life pretending I didn't love you," he whispered. I smiled through my tears, and I spent half my life pretending I didn't care about you. Everyone laughed softly, because they knew our story. They knew we started as two people who couldn't stand being in the same room. They knew we fought over everything. They knew we challenged each other at every opportunity. But they also knew something else. They knew that behind every argument was a love neither of us understood yet. After the ceremony, Damian surprised me with something I never expected. A new diary. The same type of leather cover as the one that changed everything. I opened it and saw the first page. Written in his handwriting were the words, "Ava Sterling. This time our story won't be written by secrets, misunderstandings, or other people. This time, we write it together." I looked at him and laughed. "You're still writing about me?" He smiled. "I spent years writing about you. I don't plan on stopping now." And that was when I realized something. The diary that once broke my heart became the diary that healed it. The secret that almost destroyed us became the truth that saved us. People always ask me if I regret marrying my enemy. They ask how I could possibly fall in love with the man I once promised myself I would never forgive. My answer is always the same: no. Because Damian Sterling was never truly my enemy. He was the person who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. He was the person who remembered my dreams when the world told me they were impossible. He was the person who stood beside me when everyone else walked away. He was the person who fought battles I never knew existed just to protect my happiness. The world saw a ruthless billionaire. They saw a man without emotions. They saw someone who had everything except a heart. But they were wrong, because I knew the truth. I knew the heart he hid from everyone else. And that heart had belonged to me since the day we were 16. Sometimes love doesn't arrive the way we expect. Sometimes it doesn't begin with a perfect first meeting. Sometimes it begins with arguments, with misunderstandings, with two people convinced they are on opposite sides. Sometimes the person who challenges you the most is the person who changes you the most. And sometimes the person you think is fighting against you is actually the person who has been fighting for you all along.